presentation, Cinderella the Cat, was a tremendous year for Madden Entertainment. In fact, the movie came out in Europe and also in Asia, and we had very good results in almost in Italy, but even outside Italy, where there were many competitions we won. And it's a great pleasure to share it with you, because that can't be done without Blender. So, one important spot is you can recognize there is a Best Visual Effects award. It's like the Italian Oscars. It's called Davide Donatello. And since then, Madden Entertainment started producing live-action movies. But the award was given for Cinderella the Cat because they recognized the movie like a full-time visual effect for 80 minutes. So Madden started producing this movie that it's a comedy. But in these times, the independent film industry tends to use visual effects even in movies that maybe wouldn't need it. This one was made by Antonio Capuano. He's an Italian director, well known. And when we talk about independent film industry, independent means generally low budget, and industry is small studios and freelance. So this means you couldn't have a standard or a workflow or pipeline, because you are not going to manage all the stuff. You are going to give frames to someone that takes the frames, makes something else, and so on. So in this movie, we had some source material they showed us, and it was like this. They had this stuff, and they say, can this dog sing? Maybe yes, but not from this footage. So we had no other choice than go and make a digital double, a cheap digital double. But we try to use the technology, as always, most open source, but trying to mix the things and making it work for us. So we managed to have a digital scan for the dog. And this is done, if you remember our latest presentation, with a standard Kinect sensor. It was not going to be used to be the mesh, but just as a reference for the volumes and keeping the things together, like you will see the dog resemble it in the final movie. Then we made some topology, basic topology, mostly adapting topology we already had for our movies and making some more detail. And we also make some multi-res modifier, making some of the sculpting geometry we captured with 3D scanning. We tried to use photogrammetry, but it was very tricky because, as you may have noticed, they choose a mid-long hair dog. So photogrammetry, we're going crazy on that. But anyway, we managed to use photogrammetry pictures to create high detail resolution textures for the dog. Talking about fur, we had to create this simple add-on, because I don't know why, but once you create particle layer system, the options of the data blocks go locked. And so you cannot replicate and use a different setting, but with Python you can. So Paolo wrote an add-on that lets me duplicate the particle system and then change, or even make single user the data block and make some modification. Moreover, there are lots, maybe 10 hair system only on the head of the dog, and more or less the same on the full body. So I needed something to easily hide and reset as render the particle system, and that also makes the add-on. So I will go roughly about this. We use mostly some guide hairs. We put only 5, 10 starting points using the texture as a reference. And then we use the interpolation to fill a basic for the dog, but this is not enough. So we had lots of air system. Mostly the rims are detailed one by one because the interpolation doesn't work so well when you have large areas. And so we had, I think, something like 10 or 20 air system. And this is the final look in the viewport. It's not usable. That was one problem. And then we had to rig it. And we use Rigify in MED, but for this task it was not enough. So the project was starting after Cinderella the Cat is making a modular phase for Rigify, started here, and we created new samples, like this one of the new phase samples is called the Bendy Jaw. It starts like creating a jaw like you see in the standard Rigify, but it goes over now, it's not name-based, and it's independent from the subdivisions you have in the bones, so you can have almost any size or any number of bones in the mouth, having all the same controls, automation, and so on. This is the final result we had for the dog. And even if it looks beautiful, it's not the same as having the real dog. So we opted to try to convince the director that whenever the scene starts and he is singing, it's all digital, never mixed digital and real. These are some of the cuts we made for the dog. You may see there's a lot of things happening, and you can see there's no either one still camera. It's all tracking, but we try to manage that using this as a point and advantage for us, because if we track well the movement, it can fake. You cannot stabilize your eye on the dog that's fake in some cuts more than other. So one of the problems was bringing the dog back inside the footage, because we had footage like this. The focus zone is on the foot of the girl, and the dog should be there singing. So we will not stay in focus. We had to manage a situation like this. I put it in focus, out of focus here, and then I make a digital zoom, blurring the focus when you cannot see the dog pose, so you have no reference for that. And in some cuts we had the reflection that was very tricky for us, at least for us. I don't know if anyone has better ideas. We had this reflection to make there, and we had this glossy indirect pass, but we found nothing to create a real mask in cycles. So we created an invisible emit dog with all the ears emitting that created this white and black mask to mask out the reflection. This is a shot breakdown that resembles more or less all the process made for the dog. First, we had to track the background. Paolo will talk about tracking later. We also had, with 3D scanning, a basic capture of the props in the house, so we can use that to test if the match is good. Then we had this, but the director cannot understand that this is the same dog, so we tried to iterate this pass, giving him something like this, but he still doesn't get it, because he's not a CG artist, so even if you see the frame I've shown you, you have to see the final dog. So every iteration is going to re-render everything, even in a small resolution, but otherwise you will not get the approval, because he will say that's no Fourier, or I can see too much teeth. Okay, let's do something more. I give the word to Paolo that will explain some more magic tricks, cheap tricks for the movie.
Hi. So the dog is a visible effect, and then in the film there were some invisible effects like object removals and so on. The invisible, the audience is supposed not to be able to grasp it at first glance, So let's see how it plays. Is it playing? No? Okay, here it is. So this is footage that we edited because the characters are dancing and singing in a choreography, and they did need to listen to the music, so they were wearing earplugs. Well, she's still wearing those, but all these shots, they are like this. Yeah, there it is. So we left the actual earplugs on the girl. They made it green, thinking that they would have gone away, but that's not enough. But the thing is, in the end, those are earplugs. She's a teenager. She is likely to wear those in real life. So we just left them. We removed all of these things. They tried to put something that could resemble the color of the skin, but you really can't see that. So it is. This is one tricky shot. The thing is, those are quite evident that they are. And that's, I mean, if you know where to look, it seems strange. Now, if you look at those ears, there is still a small seam. I mean, you can see something strange once you focus on those, but it was okay for the audience. So I think that's fair enough. And we did use Blender for this because it was kind of a challenge to see if we could do some editing in Blender without using commercial software like Boris or other specific software for this. And the thing is, thanks to the tracker, the Blender tracker is very good, we just tracked the actual ear and used it to animate a CG. This is a very simple rig, just a texture. And that's it. We just put it over there, so at least you cannot see the plug anymore, but there is the cable still. So we needed a clean plate in order to mask the cable. And there it is. We can track the background too. You have to find some persistent dot here on the background, but we found it. So we could use that tracking to animate this screen plate in the viewport. And then, thanks to some masking, this is, of course, a handmade mask, we could do the magic. And yes, you can see some seam if you focus. It's not possible to us to make it perfect, but it was okay for the audience. So that was it. And then after all of this, they asked for something more. They asked if they could have some interaction between the dog and the main character, like the dog blinking, doing this in reply to the character's gestures. So we couldn't use our CG dog for this. It is a close-up, and we don't have illumination map because they didn't knew we would have need those. So the thing is, we had to work with what we had. We had the clean plate. This is another effect, the ear. There again, it's not like I'm 100% happy with the result, but the audience was. So it was good enough. And how we did it? This scene is quite easy to track. So we could track the camera and put our CG head and a plane on which we made projection mapping. And that was enough in the end. This is just a blend shape key in Blender World, sorry. And it worked. So in the end, it was simple. And this is for the ear. It's pretty much the same, just a bit more complicated. But yes, we used our CG head only for projection and masking, and it kind of worked. So they could at least publish the film, and that's it. We also made the dog in in the cover because the dog doesn't fly on his own. And so it was good to have it. Yeah, I think that's it.
I must say some final words about this work. First, we try to share mostly our experience in doing this because it was the first time for us to. And one thing I told you in the beginning is in production like that, you cannot manage to have the full work for our pipeline. One of the biggest problems we had was they gave us the shot in a log. I don't know if you know what it is, like a raw picture where no color grade is applied. There's lots of gray, and you cannot see anything. We asked a lot of times about having the final grade, at least for the background, but the grade they gave us was not final, so we made some more implementation on that, and then after it went all up like 100% saturation and so on, and they probably have broke down some more believability in the final frame. So if you have the option to manage the final frame, you always go for that because otherwise you have fake pixels already. It's CG. You are trying to blend it with the final composition. And moreover, there's some more tricking. We probably should have been on set from the beginning because if you have seen the last scene Paolo showed you, that's how you should naturally do that, having most of the part of the dog real, and then making some projection, faking some parts. But if you have a green screen that doesn't match the tracker, you will see a fake anyway. So we choose the best fake, give us more control, but will be fake anyway if you replace them out. So it's always choosing the best option you have, and it will not be perfect at all. But we try to replicate, moreover, the pipeline we have seen in the big studios. And I think the process is straightforward the same. We cut it out a lot of features in the end. There were a muscle system we tried to put in. There were lots of air, dynamic air. We had to put it down because we had so much time in rendering each time to just show the animation pass to the director. That was horrible. And maybe the real-time preview Blender is going to develop with EEVEE could help a lot in this kind of case, because you can go a step forward to the director's eye when he's not a CG artist, and you can talk the same language because he just understands this picture is good or not. You cannot show them a CG dog in low-res and making it believable because you say it will be. So bringing this thing together is actually our big steps. And the other thing is Rigify is still working thanks to this project, because we have now the modular phase that is going to be in next release, and it means you can have just one eye or 3 or 7. You can clusterize the eyes. You can have the mouth system detached from another parts. You can put them out in the belly and so on. And wait for later next year for the 2.8 release. Thank you all. Thanks.